3 things that my mentors has taught me to help me with my success. Hi, my name is Dr. Edward Burns Jr. and welcome to my world. My first mentor, you guys, very well known, and I love him all the time. I love him to life, to be honest with you, and that's Ed Mylett.
It's important that we celebrate our wins. We celebrate our lives because it causes us to want the next bite. It keeps us hungrier, not the reverse. And so for me, I want to live in a state of being grateful and blissful now, not waiting for some future place or date that may never arise.
The first thing Ed Mylett taught me was inspiration. He inspires so many people. He gives so much of himself to the point that sometimes I see him speaking on stage, I see him being drained, but I understand why. I understand what his mission actually is. It's to give as much as he can to as many people who understand his gift. And the second thing that Ed taught me was, as he talked about his father in his later years, getting back with his father, his faith. His faith was so strong. He believed so much in Yahweh, so much in God, to the point that he knew that would help him get through and help him with his relationship with his father. So it actually helped me with my father, because me and my father's relationship was very, very strained at one point in my life. But I understand now what having someone who has gone through that before you and what that success looked like, it's actually helped me with my success. And the third thing that Ed has helped me out with is a humble attitude. This guy is one of the most servant leaders I've ever seen in my life. Any of his books, 2 books he's written, this guy shows you so much depth into himself of humbleness that all he wants to do is serve everybody at a high capacity. I told you I had 3 mentors, and my second mentor is Les Brown.
I had this high school teacher who said, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. But there's something that Earl Nightingale said. He said, all of us are self-made, but only the successful will admit it.
Boy, this guy, to me, he was the voice of the 70s and 80s and 90s as an inspiration and motivational speaker. When I first heard him speak about he was hungry on that stage, then I became hungry, because I knew someone that had what I wanted. So I watched every video and I captured everything this man said. I watched all his talk shows to the point that I think that now it's a plum, peach, and pleasure just to speak to you. Second thing I learned from Les Brown is his humble beginnings, that he had as a student, he wasn't able to learn as much either. So I identified with by having dyslexia myself. So I identified with that. But it never stopped him from being a politician. It never stopped him from being the #1 rated motivational speaker on the planet. To this day, you say anything about motivation, you're talking about Mr. Les Brown. And the third thing that Les Brown taught me was his why. His why was because him and his twin brother were adopted. He had this mother who adopted them and took care of them, and he talked about how he lost his mother's home and everybody laughed at him. Well, guess what? I lost my home too. And everyone laughed at me. But in the end, his why was stronger than the failures, because he understood his failure was actually his success. So I took what he was saying, I took what he embodied, and I brought him to my world, I brought him to my life, and it's helped me actually come to this forefront where I am today. Now, my third mentor, man, this guy, he's from Iran. This guy was in the Army. He's a high school graduate. He actually owns his own financial service company. We're talking about Mr. Patrick Bet-David.
So I want you to think about the most intimidating competitor you have, the one that dominates the marketplace. You know who he is, you know who she is. Think about that person. What makes that person intimidating? Why is the market intimidated by this person? You know exactly who I'm talking about. I'm gonna explain to you today why that competitor who intimidates everybody is dominating the marketplace.
Let me break this down for you. Comes to America, high school education. He actually goes bankrupt. People don't know this part about him. He goes bankrupt. He starts working at Dean Witter at the beginning of the 2011. Could you imagine that for a second? And the financial industry goes bust, but it doesn't stop him, it doesn't deter him. He ended up creating this company called Value Entertainment. It's one of the biggest companies to this day on the planet. He has a YouTube channel that's for over 1 million new subscribers, and his net worth is over 150 million. So I studied the great ones. Second thing he's taught me was understanding family. One thing I love about his book, he talks about how he wants his children to actually run his company with him as they get older. He talks about Patrick Jr., about how he can see himself sitting down at the table with Patrick Jr. They actually run the Value Entertainment. Hey, I lost my son, but I got a daughter, and I look at her as being the next best thing to her father to actually help me run my organization next to her father. That's my dream. And Patrick has taught me nothing but more about family, but then taking that risk and knowing at the end that it will be worth it. We never talk about what you should do, talk about what we are doing to make sure our success hits great heights. And the third thing we talked about is his willingness. His willingness to risk it all for the opportunity for his family. Not only that, but for the agents around him. Think about it right now. With 17,000 agents in this industry, he tries to touch every last one of his agents because he understands his willingness to risk it all. And that's me. I risked it all before. Walked out of jobs, started a new company with $34.41 just only to create what I'm creating right now. At this very moment right now, I'm risking it all. You know why? Because my mission outweighs anything else in my life right now. And that is to become the very best and successful and teach you how to become successful in your life. Hey, that's my time. My name is Dr. Edward Burns Jr. If you like this video, it's been a great success to you, hit the comment, hit the like button, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next time in my world.